So I have more than a few things to say about The Favourite, and I kind of want to break it down into a couple of sections. Firstly, I want to explore Yorgos Lanthimos' approach to the film, because love him or hate him, this is someone who takes risks. His films never feel safe. Every camera move, every edit, every single directorial decision that he makes feels dangerous, it feels risky, and that's partly why I admire him as a filmmaker so much, because if you've seen The Lobster or The Killing of the Sacred Deer, you know that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but he runs with it anyway with so much confidence. And that's something that's definitely been carried over to The Favourite, which I was really excited to see. I kind of went into this movie expecting The Favourite to be like the cool kid of award season, and I'll get back to this in just a bit, but what I got was a very sort of paradoxical film. And what I mean by that is that like every single thing that happens in this film, every single aspect of this film works and doesn't work. So the first thing I want to look at that pretty much everyone has been talking about is the cinematography by Robbie Ryan, which is absolutely awesome. It looks great. He definitely deserves an Oscar nomination. And the really specific choices that they make with the cinematography make the film feel so energetic and so exciting and never, ever boring. That's like the one thing I can praise this film on. Unlike most period pieces, this film is never boring. And of course, this really fancy style of cinematography creates that sense of dynamism, creates this sense of energy. But being that it's so explicit and it calls so much attention to itself, similar to Roma, I found myself paying more attention to the filmmaking than allowing myself to be immersed into this world and immersed with these characters. I mean, if you look at something like Django Unchained, for example, there are really sort of cool camera moves, but they do that sparingly so that we actually get a sense of atmosphere, that we get a sense of place. Similar to Suspiria this year, there are some really cool whip pans and zooms, but then they contrast that with really simple shots that just kind of suck you into this world. But the same cannot be said with The Favourite, which feels so cool and stylized in every shot that I kind of forgot about the story, I forgot about the characters. Now that's just my opinion. The same thing can be said with the music. Now a lot of people have been comparing this film to Phantom Thread last year, saying that, you know, for award season, this is the Phantom Thread of this year. But for me, I think that the reason I personally like Phantom Thread a little bit more is because there's a little bit more subtlety, as I said, in the camera work, but in the music as well. Because you look at Johnny Greenwood's score, which is very subtle, but not so subtle in some scenes, and they balance that so well. But here, it's either no music at all, or really boom, loud music. And for me, that, again, was cool, and it was stylish, and it made the film energetic and unique, but the music called attention to itself, and took me out of the experience, again, similar to the cinematography. And if I were to compare this to the two other Lanthimos films that I've seen, the other two feel a lot more patient and methodical, and you get the sense of atmosphere, you get the immersion, because you just have these shots of people just standing there doing nothing, or just like long shots of people walking. And we do have that in The Favourite, but it's all cut very quickly. And again, the editing feels very energetic and very exciting for like the 100th time, but it took me out of the experience again. So really, this film, I would say, is like a jacked up version of Roma, in the sense that I was so impressed by every single filmmaking aspect that I was focused on being impressed and not on the story and the characters. So let's talk about these characters. Of course, we have the three main protagonists played by Olivia Colman, Rachel Weisz, and Emma Stone. And it's also a paradox, because Olivia Colman is being nominated for like Best Actress, and the other two are being nominated for Best Supporting Actress. But in my mind, they're kind of like, all three of them are kind of like in between. It would be kind of awkward to nominate them as supporting actresses because they have a lot more screen time. But it would be awkward to nominate them as actresses because you can't nominate three people despite the fact that they have the same amount of screen time. And can we just take a moment to appreciate the fact that this is a film with three female leads, but they never make a thing about it? Because I feel like we live in a world where whenever there's like a female lead or a black lead or an Asian lead or an Asian cast or a female cast, like they make such a big deal out of it, and like it feels like the film's like instantly more important because of it. But what I really admire about this film is that it never makes a big deal of it. It never uses the fact that it's three female actors to take advantage of anyone, and I really respect that. They're just kind of like, they're more focused on making a good film than a female-led film, you know? And I really respect that. And of course, the acting is amazing. I mean, you've got Olivia Colman, who basically perfectly balances the pathetic and sympathetic aspects of her character. You've got Rachel Weisz, who gives one of the most powerful performances. Her character just oozes authority and power and badassery. But at the same time feels vulnerable, feels emotionally vulnerable. And I said this in my Letterboxd review, but I would love to see her in a stare down with Viola Davis from Widows. I think that would be awesome. And then you've got Emma Stone, who probably plays like the least Emma Stone character we've seen to date. And I thought the male cast was absolutely amazing as well. So really, this is such a well-acted film. However, going back to that paradox thing, despite the fact that I enjoyed all these performances, I never really found myself truly caring about any one of them. There are moments that humanize all three, but they're so small and they happen so quickly. They are super powerful, but I never found myself truly caring about these characters in the same way that I was invested in a character like, say, Reynolds from Phantom Thread. Now, maybe this is because, again, the fancy directing, or maybe it's because the script didn't allow too much humanization for these characters. I don't know. Now, I do feel like a bit of a hypocrite because last summer I made a video about style versus substance and how, in my opinion, the style of a film is just as important as the substance, and I still stand by that. But I guess the best way for me to describe this film is that, like, I guess it does feel like that cool kid at the award season, but at the same time, it's the cool kid who's being cool at the expense of being nice and honest and polite. And if you could just combine those two things, I think this movie would be really, really great. And it would have been one of my favorites of the year. I think that if I had put this on my like best of the year list or ranked, I would probably say it would be an honorable mention. It wouldn't have been on the top 10, just because despite the fact that I love the filmmaking so much, it did take me out of the experience, very similar to Roma. But the reason I like Roma more is because it feels more genuine and it feels more warm and honest and emotional, despite the fact that I wasn't super connected to the characters in Roma either. But anyway, those were some of my thoughts on The Favourite. If I were to give it a grade, I would probably give it a B+ or an A-, which basically translates into I didn't like this film quite as much as most people did. But we all have our opinions, and I still support this film going into award season, and I think that it's definitely more deserving of certain nominations than other films like Crazy Rich Asian. But anyway, those were my thoughts on The Favourite, guys. I hope you go see the film because it is actually quite good and it's an interesting film, and I hope you enjoyed it more than I did probably, and I hope you enjoyed this video as well. Thank you very, very much for watching. Thank you.